Of the Chartist's 6 demands, 5 of them have been put into law since then. So they had a point. And when you think about it, what happened that day in 1839 was a real milestone on Britain's route to democracy. Here we are in Newport, which is a friendly city, but like many cities and towns near borders, people rush through it, in this case to get between Bristol and Cardiff, and they miss something, because this place has an industrial history that's absolutely fascinating, and also a very moving social history. For example, right here, we're next to the sculptures that mark the Chartist uprising of 1839, when people were simply demanding one man, one vote. And they were shot down here, and about 20 of them killed. And there's a bullet hole in the hotel behind me to prove it. And when you think of places called Somethingistan, where the dictators shoot down the people for demanding democratic rights, well, it happened here in the lifetime of my great-grandfather. We're here to celebrate the reopening after 60 years of a passenger line up to Ebbw Vale in the hills. So let's go explore.
The Newport to Ebbw Vale line, originally built to bring coal and steel down to Newport docks from the industrial Ebbw Vale, was closed to passengers in 1962, but luckily kept its tracks for freight. At the moment, it only runs to Cross Keys, where you'll have to change for the Cardiff to Ebbw Vale train. It is hoped there will be direct services once again from Newport to Ebbw Vale in 2023.
Further along the line, at a place called Crumlin, there's no longer a station, but there used to be one on this line called Crumlin Low Level, and very high up on a line crossing the valley was one called Crumlin High Level. And the iron viaduct that went across there was the highest in Britain. Quite a remarkable thing. And oddly enough, starred in a Hollywood film called Arabesque, which featured Gregory Peck and Sophia Loren. So you had these 2 glamorous stars suddenly turned up in a Welsh Valley with all their entourage of caravans and support crews and so on. And people still talk about it here. Here we are, a couple of miles from Lanhilleth station, at a place called 6 Bells, and there's a very sombre monument here called the Guardian of the Valleys, and it's to one particular mining disaster, the 6 Bells disaster in 1960, where 45 men and boys lost their lives in a pit here, coal mining. And tragically, there were fathers and sons in that group, so those families were devastated. But this is also dedicated, this wonderful monument is also dedicated to all the pits in South Wales that had these kind of accidents. And they were hundreds, 260 in one place, 113 in another place. Greater sacrifices than the First World War brought to these villages, but all in one day. And it's heartbreaking to read sometimes how many widows and orphans were created on one day in one town and one village. The appalling cost of this hewing the ground underneath here. Here we are at Ebbw Vale at the end of the line, and behind me is a relic of the steelworks that was once here. What I'd recommend doing is going to the old managers' buildings, which are to the left here, the historic clock tower, and go in there, and there's a museum to the steelworks. And old steelworkers will tell you what went on here, which was extraordinary. The steel plant was 2.5 miles long, half a mile wide. It was the biggest integrated steelworks in Europe in the 1930s, and yet now it's all gone, and the 13,000 jobs that went with it. So what a revolution. One of the best things you can do with this little railway is bring a pair of boots or a mountain bike and an ordnance survey map and get up in the hills either side of this line, because the views are just spectacular.